Okay, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu Cree, and Dakota peoples, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation and Treaty 3 territory. My name is Neil Hardin. I'm chairing today's panel. With me are Linda McFadden and Kevin Stephenson. The assessor today is Mackenzie Omachinsky and the administrative personnel is Twinkle Sharma. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment rule in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application and will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking of the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the board. The board is appointed annually by council and is independent of it in the city administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order to be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions the applicant may have, and the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application is being brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 1 through 7 on our docket today. Ms. Sharma, please affirm the assessor's and applicant's testimony.
Sure. Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Mackenzie Omachinsky.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to provide at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Jared Moroz.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to provide at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right. Good morning once again. Our first property on the agenda is 45 Carlton Street. So, Mr. Omachinsky, you can begin.
Thank you. So this is file number 24-4305, roll number 120926080000. The address is 45 Carlton Street, roll year 2025, reference date April 1st, 2023. Assessed value $3,806,000, classification 20, liability T. There is one building with 3 stories. The actual year built is 1928, and we have an effective year built of 1978. There is 30 suites for the property. I'll go to the following page. For subject sale history, there was a sale in October 6th of 2016 for $2.25 million. And then on page 3, we just have the income value summary. So for the number of units, we have 21 one-bedroom, 9 two-bedroom, for a total of 30 units. The average monthly rent per unit we currently have at $1,056.50. The gross potential rent is $380,340. Vacancy rate is 4.3%. Effective gross income is $363,985. The expense rate we have at 48.76%. The net operating income is $186,506 with a capitalization rate of 4.9%. The estimated market value rounded is $3,806,000 with the market value per suite sitting at $126,866.67. The following page, we have the rent comparables on page 4. The effective year built ranges from 1938 to 1978 for these comparables. The total number of units range from 20 to 62. The number of bachelor would be 0 to 14, number of one bedroom 12 to 36, and number of two bedroom 2 to 22. The average monthly rent per unit for these comparables range from $921 to $1,077. The next page is our capitalization rate information just provided by the city. And then on the following is our page 6, capitalization rate evidence. The following is a sample of actual sales that took place during the reference period. For the purpose of showing these individual capitalization rates is to illustrate the accuracy of the model and substantiate the model-derived capitalization rates. They're not meant to be comparable specific to the subject property. Then on the following page, on page 7, we have Municipal Assessment Act excerpts, and on 8, we have an aerial photo of where the subject property resides, as well as a street photo. And on page 9, we have a permit. This was a permit done in December of 2016. This is revised repair 8 existing 3-level balconies on existing foundations. Work includes new windows and replacement of rotten members, and that would be declared construction value of $80,000. The following is just another permit. This, I believe, would be the permit previous to the revised one. So this is technically the same thing. So my apologies for that. But on page at the bottom of page 10 there, we just have the room layouts and then some information about the property from 11 to 12. And then we have the budget versus actuals for the property and the rent roll on the remaining pages. And that would be my presentation. I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Okay, questions, Mr. Morose?
Yeah. On page 4.
Yeah.
Have your rent comparables. The first one is the subject. So you have 4 comparables. What is the purpose of this comparable chart? What is it telling us?
So we're taking properties from we're taking other residential apartment properties from the area that have a similar either layout or similar unit breakdown with as close as we can find a similar age, and then comparing it with the average monthly rent just to show that these comparables or this apartment is comparable to other ones in the area for those characteristics.
What characteristics?
So like I stated before, it would be like the it'd be
You said it's
unit
similar,
breakdown.
Like the character, you're just determining that this apartment is similar to other apartments that have rent rolls, or are you trying to say that the rent's at market? Like what is the purpose of this?
Yeah, so it's to show that the rent is similar to other properties in the area.
What does that mean that it's similar to, like, why is that a benefit knowing that they're similar to other properties in the area? Like, ultimately, you would be wanting to show that it's at market rent, right? That it's in line with the market. Is that the intent here? 'Cause I'm not really sure what the intent of the chart is.
Yeah, it would be to show that it's at market rent for the area.
Basically, you're saying the rent charge of the subject property is at market.
Yeah, our model rent charge is comparable to other rent charges for the area.
Is your model rent charge? So this rent here, average monthly rent for the subject property, is not the average rent charge at the subject property. It's something else.
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
You
Sorry,
just mentioned the model, but third from the bottom of your chart, it says average monthly rent per unit, and that's the subject property. So I'm assuming that average monthly rent per unit is what the rent charge at the subject property.
Sorry, the average monthly rent per unit would be, yes, it'd be the total number of units and then multiply by like the average monthly rent per unit, and then
At the
for
charge
the full year you would find your gross potential rent. Sorry?
That's rent charged at the subject property.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And these comparables are other apartments where that's your average rent charged at those apartments.
Correct. Yeah.
Then on page 6, there's a chart here, address, sale date, sale price. It says the net operating income has been developed through stabilizing owner reported income and expense information. So for me to understand this correctly, my question is that this owner reported income and expense information, that's the income mailers, that's similar to what the subject property would provide for income and expense statements.
Correct.
And that information is used by somebody at the assessment department to determine capitalization rates based on this list of properties here.
Yes. Correct.
Would you, in your opinion, is it possible that there's some mistakes made in this chart?
I wouldn't know if there had been mistakes made in this chart. It's the chart that we use for our capitalization rate evidence, so I'd assume that it's been thoroughly checked, but I can't speak confidently to if there's mistakes or not.
So it's been thoroughly checked, and in fact, you're stating that all of your capitalization rates are based on this information, or at least checked by this information in this chart, cross-checked by it.
Yeah, for the city of Winnipeg, we also use the Coilers and the Cushman and Wakefield for other for further information on capitalization rates.
Yeah, that's a table above, and it just
Mhm.
gives a rate here, high, low.
Yeah, yeah.
You put some percentile stuff in there. Okay. And then essentially the assessment, the model comes up with some incomes and expenses and capitalization, and comes up with the assessed value in the end. That's how it's typical.
Sorry, I just had a little bit trouble hearing you. I'm going to turn you off. Could you repeat that question?
So basically, the page 3, it's just that this the model takes the information, uses a gross potential rank, a vacancy, effective gross income, expense ratio, then determines the net operating income, and then it capitalizes it into a value.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, that's all I have for questions.
Okay. Ms. McFadden, any questions?
So this evidence on page 3 is all model driven. Is that correct, Mackenzie?
Correct. This is model driven.
And has this building been inspected by you or your colleagues lately?
No, it hasn't been inspected by myself, or to my knowledge, my colleagues.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
Okay.
Mr. Stephenson?
No questions at this time, thank you.
Okay. Okay, I have a question about the unit makeup, but perhaps I'll come back to that after the applicant's presentation. They seem to have a different number of 1 and 2 bedroom units, different breakdown.
Okay.
So I'll come
Mr.
back.
Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt, but before we proceed, can we take a little recess?
Sure. How long would you need?
Just 5 minutes is fine for me. I need to talk to the panel.
Okay, 5 minutes then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Welcome back. Okay, we're on the questions to the assessor. I take it from the effective age, then this apartment had a major upgrade at some point in time. Do you know when that was?
Yes, I wasn't able to find specifically the permit that would explain the effective age, so it might have happened possibly in the past. The only permits that I found that were in our like electronic records were the ones that I put in the document here.
Okay, so you're not sure what year that update was done or what was done or whatever, eh?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll go on to Mr. Morose's evidence, and I understand there's a question now of the evidence being received late, approximately 5 hours late. Um, Mr. Morose, do you wish to speak to that?
Um, if you want to ignore the briefs and just take my verbal arguments, I'm fine with that. Yeah,
Yeah,
we were late, but I'm
yeah.
okay.
Do you know why it was sent late?
I sent them in late. I wasn't aware that there was a 4:30 deadline. It
Okay.
didn't-
All right, Mr. Omachinsky, does the city have any objection to receiving the late evidence?
No.
Okay, I guess we got to confer briefly on this, so we'll go in camera again and decide whether to receive the late evidence.
Yeah, I don't mind if you don't want to receive it and I just give verbal arguments. It's fine with me.
Okay, we'll go in camera. All right, welcome back. Yes, the panel has conferred, and we will accept the briefs as presented, and that will apply for all the briefs that were received late. So, Mr. Moroza, you can proceed with your brief then.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify something on the question you asked about the renovations in the apartment building.
Okay.
Just on page 2 of the permit, it gives I think you said looking at the pictures, it would show. But page 2 talks about interior work being done, replacing drywall and windows and mechanical. Page 10 of the assessor's brief.
So that was 2016. That was after the sale? Was it sold in 2016, I think?
Yeah. Yeah. It was October 6th, 2016 was the registration date for the sale.
Yeah, 66,000. That's not a huge upgrade. All right,
Yeah.
anyhow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you can proceed, Mr. Rose. Then.
Basically, if my information is correct, there seems to be a massive increase on this building's assessment. Went from 2.8 million to 3.8 million. So basically, what I do, I just take the past 3 years operating history in the mailers, I stabilize it. This instance, repairs and maintenance were reported on the low side. Um, so I adjusted repairs and maintenance. Basically, it's in line with the assessment department. Then I just capitalized it for indication of the value, 3,250,000. The just for information purposes, the brief is mostly filled with information on capitalization rates and capitalization on properties. Page 22, 23, there's some multifamily cap rate. And that's the end of my presentation.
Okay. Questions, Mr. Omachinsky?
Nope. I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Stephenson.
What rates did you apply to stabilize? Like they don't look like averages of those numbers over the 3 years. Like, is there a mathematical formula, or did you just pick those numbers?
What numbers are you talking about?
On page 1, where you have your stabilized revenue, stabilized expenses, and stabilized NOI. Where are those numbers coming from? How did you derive them?
They're being based on the mailer. This I'm not sure why it's 364. 1 second. Yeah, I'm not sure what led to the first stabilized revenue. The second one is basically used from the 2022 expenses. That gave a net operating income of 187, which is just revenue minus expenses.
Like
That number was adjusted for repairs and maintenance. Generally, it would have been based on per suite. I would have taken the repairs and maintenance average that was reported per suite and then adjusted it to the probably $2,000 a door, but I don't have that in front of me.
Okay, thank you. No further questions from me.
Okay, Ms. McFadden.
My question's been asked and answered. Thank you.
Okay, so to be clear, where does that, you say you're using the city's NOI, but then you're deducting $11,000 from that? Where's that deduction come from?
It's the reduction is for repairs and maintenance. You look under expenses, it has R&M. So it's based on the so say if we looked at repairs and maintenance per door, it would have been an adjustment based on per door repairs and maintenance, and it just equal the assessment department's net operating income, with the model's net operating income generally.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. I've got no more questions, so let's move on to the second property on the agenda then, which is 303 Assiniboine. So you can begin, Mr. Omachinsky.
Okay, thank you. This is file number 24-4352, roll number 12092518100. The address is 303 Assiniboine Avenue. Roll year 2025, reference date April 1st, 2023. The assessed value is $2,769,000. Classification 20, liability T. There's one building with 3 stories. The actual and effective year built is 1929, and we have 34 suites. I will be making a verbal recommendation for this property, just based on decisions with conversations with staff members, or sorry, based on past decisions and conversations with staff members in our section. I'm making the recommendation to reduce the assessment to the current assessment that the current model assessment less the post 2025 Board of Revision value for Zero Navy, which is the parcel adjacent. It seems like this has been done in the past. So my recommendation would be $2,575,000. The current post reduction of assessment for Zero Navy is $194,000.
So that's used for parking?
Yes.
$2,575,000. Okay, so Mr. Morose, how do you feel about that number?
I don't understand what the assessor's saying. The property was assessed at 460,000 something, Zero Navy, but you're only taking off 195. Can you explain? I don't.
So there was a board decision to reduce the 2025 value to 193,000.
193,000, or was it 300?
It was 193. So the 320,000 was actually the 2023 assessment, but there was an updated assessment from a board decision for 2025 that was 193,000.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. Obviously, wouldn't agree. I don't know where the 195,000. This is the first time I'm hearing of this is today. It's unfortunate because I reached out to the assessor several times about this property. I asked this question prior to the hearing to see what values are and what can be done. I think it's terrible that this is the first time I'm hearing of these numbers when I've asked this question several times. I don't know if it's 195 or 300 and something or 400 and
This
something thousand.
yeah, my apologies. This new number, the 193,000, is something that I found out this morning for the board decision of 2025.
And before that, you'd sent me an email before that saying it was reduced from 400 and something down to 300 and something.
Correct. Yeah, that was the 2023 assessment. Yeah. So it had been further reduced for 2025.
Okay, no, I wouldn't agree to that right now. It's
Okay.
in front of me and I'm not really. The assessment went up from 1,435,000 on this property to 2,769,000. So you're saying now you'll drop it to 2,575,000? So still over $1 million increase?
Okay, so the short answer is no, so we'll then proceed with the hearing. Is there anything more than that you wish to add to your presentation, Mr. Omarchinsky?
So I guess the income, I can go over the number of unit breakdown.
Yep.
So that'd be 31 one bedroom, 3 2-bedroom for 34 total units. And then if we scroll to, I am using model value. So there's on page 8, we just have the aerial photo with a street photo of the property. And then I just wanted to point out on page 9 and 10 for their mailer, the gross potential suite income versus the reported income received is close to $100,000 difference. So I'm unaware of the reliability of this mailer, which is why I decided to go with the model value. And yeah, sorry, that would be the entirety of my presentation. I'm open for questions.
Okay, questions, Mr. Marouz?
Yeah, just the last comment there. Is the assessor saying that the property owner relied on a mailer and misrepresented income? I'm not sure what he said there.
No, I know that there's a large difference between the gross potential suite income versus reported income, and then there wasn't anything filled in for any vacancy. So I'm just unsure what those numbers mean or how the property came to these numbers.
Well, for one, we take off the parking, right? And there'd be vacancy and bad debt. And that would give you your 301,000.
Okay. Yeah, I hadn't seen it. There wasn't nothing reported on the mailer, so I wasn't sure how that would be broken down.
Okay. So on the question, same as last time, page 4. Again, this is the actual rent reported from the subject property. And you're confirming that this rent matches the market, correct?
This is a model created comparable chart. So I'm taking comparables of comparable apartments that typically will have a range of effective year built that's similar to the subject property, as well as the breakdown of units. We will try to create comparables that are similar to the breakdown.
Yeah, just to stop you right there, you're trying to create comparables that are similar.
This
Isn't
is
it
just
supposed to be that you just get comparables and then if the market fits your comparables, then the market's at market rent? If you don't try and specifically search for comparables that support your rent or create comparables that support your rent, correct?
We don't create comparables. We have a program that finds a list of comparables within that area, and we then break it down to a smaller list to just to show that the market rent is reasonable.
Yeah, so basically you're saying that the rent charge of the subject property represents the market. That's the intent of this chart. It reasonably represents the market.
Yes, it's showing that the chart represents the model. Yeah. Sorry.
I don't get it. The chart represents the model, or just the chart represents that this is the actual rent charge of the subject property. It averages $795.05 per unit. And I'm assuming this comparable number one has nothing to do with the market. This is actually the rents charged at 75 Kennedy Street. Its average is $845, and so on for the rest of the comparable.
Yes.
And then the comparables are included in this to show that, in fact, the subject rents match the market. They're generally reasonably accepted to fit within the market range.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Then again, just on same question on page 6 is capitalization rates. You're pretty confident that they've been reviewed and this information is based on the mailers. The mailers are accurate, and these are the numbers that have been generated by essentially relying on the mailers. Right?
Yes.
People submit their properties. Yeah. So when you say that in this particular instance, the mailer may be less reliable because you're not sure of the numbers, you really didn't mean that per se. You're just saying that this information is in fact what's reported, and you yourself don't understand how to equate one to the other. You don't see the connection between the page 9 and page 10 reporting, right?
Yeah, I haven't come across a difference of that value between the reported and the collected, or the gross potential. So I don't. And yeah, there isn't information following as to why there is that difference that's reported on the mailer.
Yeah, basically, this one question here says, it doesn't really say anything. Thought it said state your gross potential. Yeah. So they're saying gross potential suite income at 100% occupancy is what that number is saying. Right?
Yeah.
So that's asking what it is at 100% occupancy, the gross potential income, maximum money this building can generate. And then in this annual income received, the actual income received is reported at $301,638.
Mhm.
And you're just saying that's a big difference.
Yeah, I'm saying it's
Okay. That's all my questions.
Okay, Mr. Stephenson.
Can you just explain this reduction or the lot again for me? I don't see any pictures or maps or anything that.
Yeah, my apologies. This was brought to me after after I had submitted my evidence, but there is a parcel right beside this building, so 303 Assiniboine. It's the name of the Zero Navy. And then I just going through past board decisions, then talking with some staff members who had also been assigned this docket in past. It said typically the board would take off the parking assessment for Zero Navy from 303 Assiniboine. So that is the reason for my recommendation today.
So you're basically reducing that income from the rent.
Yes.
Parking. Okay. Thank you.
Ms. McFadden.
So just to be really clear, the chart with the comparables, all of this information is driven by the model, is it not? We're not talking about actual rents. We're talking about what the model is saying on all of these properties. Is that not correct?
I know that the subject property is. I believe the comparables for the others would be based on income mailers for the comparables.
Okay,
I can double check this, but
okay, thank you.
yeah, just give me one moment. Okay, yeah, they are based on actuals for the comparables.
Okay, thank you.
Subject, yeah,
That's all I have, thank you.
Okay,
Oh, just 1 second, please. Um, so they're saying that the information on the comparables is based on the comparables, which we're assuming is a mailer, and the subject property is also based on the rents charged at the subject property. Everything's actually based on the building.
so the subject is model driven for the average monthly rent per unit for the comparables. Sorry, for the comparable chart, and then the comparables are based on actuals reported. So we use comparables that have the actuals just to represent, yeah, the market rent, or the market rent being within reason for the subject property.
As opposed to the actual rent charged at the subject property.
Correct. Yes, this value is model driven for the subject.
The rents, the monthly rent in your rental studies model driven. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
okay, and I have, well, okay. In terms of your NOI, then you're getting an NOI of 140, well, say 144,000.
Yes. Yeah, it would be slightly different because of the recommendation. I can.
Well, the NOI would still be the same, but then you deduct the parking lot after your
Right. Yes,
sum.
actually,
It's not going to affect your rental values or anything like that.
yeah, you're correct. Apologies.
Uh, but then I look at the mailer and I see where the discrepancy comes. But even just look at page 10, they are reporting, the owner is reporting an NOI of 147,000.
Mhm.
So your NOI is slightly less than that then.
Yes, it would be.
Okay. Thank you for that. So, Mr. Morose, you can proceed.
Okay, so yeah, there was some confusion on this property. I reached out to the assessor, tried to get understanding what's going on. The 2023 assessment was 1,435,000. The 2025 assessment was 2,769,000, almost double. For the so what I had gathered, not from this assessor, but from uh, my office, I believe a board member had asked if the income was adjusted. It was the income for the parking wasn't adjusted. The agreement in the past was because there are two separate properties that they would remove the value of what's referred to as zero Navy off of the assessment. So I don't know why it wound up in this property. So I would suggest that the subject model, assessment model, is including the parking income from this property. If that helps clarify the question asked earlier. So essentially, I stabilized the income in 2021, 2022. The revenues put out and stabilized rate based on 2022, the most recent. Expenses were up and down, and I ended up using the average of 182. And came up with a net operating income of 120,000. This is a building located in a very bad neighborhood. There's been news articles on it, etc., about living in this particular area along the river. So I would suggest that's the reason for the discrepancy in the what's 100% attainable by this property and what's actually reported as income. I think the reporting is probably fair to accept it reasonable. So in my value, I stabilized the income stream as reported. I just used the same capitalization rate in the assessment department, 5.2. It came out to 2,308,000. I then subtracted what was at the time of the assessment, the value of what I understood to be the value of zero Navy. I found out after it was under appeal and then it was reduced, and now we found out it's reduced again. So I don't know how that affects things, but basically I stabilized the income and took off the value of the parking lot because that's how it was agreed to be handled in the past, from my understanding. And that gives me my assessment of 1,895,000. And that's it for my presentation.
Okay, questions, Mr. Omachinsky?
I have no questions. I'd like to offer a brief summation just after the questions, if possible.
Okay, Ms. McFadden?
Yes. Mr. Morris, the property is reporting an NOI of 147,000 and you're saying it's 120. Could you please explain that to me again? I'm sorry, I didn't follow that.
Yeah, so for 2022, if you look at page 1,
Yeah.
the net operating income for 2022 is 147,000.
Correct.
But if you look at the expenses from 2020 through 2022,
I see. Okay.
they fluctuate quite a bit, with 2022 being very much on the low side. So I took the average of the expenses for the past 3 years.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Stephenson?
Can you explain why the expenses went down 30 to 50,000 in 2022?
Sometimes it's repairs and maintenance. You want to give me just 1 second, please?
So no information to kind of tell us why it happened?
Yeah, I'm just grabbing it here. I just
Well, you didn't submit it. You're gonna.
No, I didn't submit it, but I can tell you why.
Okay.
It's gonna likely be in the just the repairs and maintenance. Varied. Like I have the I'm assuming I don't know why, but the repairs and maintenance have varied significantly.
There's 49,000 difference between 21 and 22 in repairs and maintenance.
21 and 22.
Maybe 48,000. Two or three. Minus 154.
Yeah, so in 2022, the repairs and maintenance reported $34,067. In 2020, repairs and maintenance were at $165,203.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I do a different. Yeah. All right, it's just a variation. So I didn't specify. I just took the average just to stabilize it. Say that some reason it's high in some years and lower in others. I took the average.
Okay, with respect to then the repairs and maintenance, in past years, did that include any capital expenditures?
Or I'm just scrolling through. It's not specifying anything for capital costs. It doesn't break out any capital costs in the income statement.
Okay, thank you for that then. Mr. Omachinsky, you said you wanted some summation.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch briefly on the parking again. We don't have any, I confirmed that we don't have any parking on this PID and that there's no income adding to the gross potential income. And that's my summation. Thank you.
Okay. Do you wish any summation, Mr. Morose?
No thanks.
All right, thank you for that. Now it's close to 10 o'clock. Let's take a 10-minute break till 5 after 10, and then we'll come back and keep on. Okay. Thank you. We'll go on to 380 Assiniboine. Mr. Omachinsky, you can begin.
Okay, thank you. This is file number 24-4353, roll number 1209271200. The address is 380 Assiniboine Avenue, roll year 2025, reference date April 1st, 2023. Assessed value is $2,979,000, classification 20, liability T. There is one building with 3 stories. The actual and effective year built is 1931. There is 44 suites with 9 outdoor parking spots. We'll go to page 3 for the income value summary. So for number of units, we have 4 bachelor, 24 1-bedroom, and 16 2-bedroom units for a total of 44 units. The average monthly rent per unit is $761.14. The gross potential rent is $401,882. Vacancy rate is 4.3%. Effective gross income is $384,601. The expense rate is 58.18%. Net operating income we have at $160,840. The capitalization rate is 5.4%. And the estimated market value rounded is $2,979,000 with a market value per suite at $67,704.55. On page 4, the rent comparables. The effective year built ranges from 1928 to 1959. Total number of units range from 20 to 39. Number of bachelor, 0 to 24. Number of one bedroom, 12 to 32. And number of two bedroom, 2 to 22. The average monthly rent per unit ranges from $781 to $966. Page 5 is the capitalization rate information, followed by the evidence. And then we have the municipal assessment excerpts on 7. And on 8, we have a aerial photo of where the subject property lies with a street photo. And then on page 9, we have the income and expense mailer. And again, there is that there's the large difference between the reported and the gross potential suite income at 100%. But that would be my presentation. Thank you for listening.
All right. Questions, Mr. Morose?
Yeah, just on page 4, is rental comparable. So this number you said is generated by the model. Does it include the parking in that number, like in the rent?
Does it include the parking for the subject or for the just
Yeah.
in? I don't believe it would include the parking, to my knowledge.
But the number equals the gross potential rent for the building.
Right. Sorry. Let's see. Right. My apologies. It would. I don't know if there is parking included in the comparables because we don't have if there is parking spots for the comparables. But for the subject property, the parking
Yeah, because it has to, because
model.
that's the number the model's reporting.
Yeah.
There's no way it can.
Yeah.
But in reality, we don't know if it does or not. Like all this number here on page 4 where it says average monthly rent per unit, all that's happening is a model taking the gross potential income and dividing it by 44 units. It's not equating if it's laundry income, parking income, rental income. It's not including any of those factors. So this is basically a meaningless number outside of it's a gross potential income for the entire building divided by the number of units. Has nothing to do with what tenants are paying for rent. Correct? It's like not we rent this suite at $761 a month, but then we pay for parking and then we pay for laundry. Doesn't include any analysis like that.
For the subject property, yeah. For the comparables, these are actuals that are reported.
How do we know how they compare then? Like there's no laundry broken out, parking broken out.
So these comparables are based on the effective year built, the number of stories and buildings, and then the unit breakdown.
But nothing to do with the actual rents charged at the building.
For the comparables or for the subject property? Sorry.
For the comparables, like you don't know if this is the actual rent per unit.
Correct.
Well,
Yeah, it's the
900
average monthly rent per unit. So
But it doesn't say if it includes laundry or parking or cable or.
correct. Yeah.
So it really has no, there's no real correlation between any of these numbers on this page outside of $761.14 is the average, is the gross potential income, the subject property at 100% occupancy divided by the number of suites. Yeah, okay, I understand. Yeah. The same thing with the capitalization rate evidence here. These rates here are based on owner reported income and expense information. So we're assuming they're from the mailers. We assume that there was an analysis done on the mailers submitted by all the buildings to come up with the capitalization rate.
Yes.
And just then again on the gross reported income includes parking for the building. We don't know what for the model, we're not sure, but this is basically gross potential suite income at 100% occupancy, and then the actual reported income based on the rent that was actually collected is supposed to be on page 10, where you're saying there's a discrepancy between the two numbers or they're far apart. But that's what the owner's reporting is actual income they took in from the building. Yeah, okay. No further.
Okay, Mr. Stephenson, questions?
No questions, thank you.
Ms. McFadden?
I have no questions, thank you.
Okay, I have no questions, so you can begin your presentation, Mr. Morose.
Basically, I just getting to 2020, 2021, 2022 income from the mailers. I shows the average and then it shows the stabilized amount. So the stabilized amount is basically from 2022. The expenses they fluctuate, not insanely, but the average is taken for the expenses to get the net operating income. And the net operating income is capitalized at 5.5% to give a value of $2,527,000. And that's it for my outside of the assessment. Went up an extraordinary amount again. From what I'm not sure if anything has changed in the interim, but went from 1.8 million to 2,979,000. Significant increase on this building. And that's it for my presentation.
Okay, questions, Mr. Omachinsky?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Ms. McFadden?
Just one question, and actually I should have asked this of the assessor as well. This building is built in 1931. The previous building was built in 1929. They seem very similar in size, in location, all the rest, but that's a fairly substantial difference in the cap rate from 5.2 to 5.5. What would be your explanation for that?
Are you asking me or?
I'm asking you, yes.
Yeah. The other one, it's kind of confusing to me what was happening. I just used I think I said that during my presentation. I just used the assessments capitalization rate on the other one. I wasn't sure what was going on, and I still have no idea, but frankly, what happened there. But This one is based on 5.5%, which is generally the average from my chart on page 23. And I have an old building here, and it's the same 5.5.
Well, your chart on page 2 that actually does the analysis for what cap rate should be is suggesting that the cap rate should be 6.85.
Yeah, it's subjective, and it's suggesting that the optimal capitalization rate is 5%, and then considering the plus or minuses from this building with 6.85, I went and I used one from the actual market. If there was something outstanding about the building, sometimes you can. This kind of just information, and then I used a cap rate based on the market transaction.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Stephenson.
My question was answered. Thank you.
All right. And I have no questions, so thank you for that. We'll go on to item 4 then, which is
Before that, would I be able to answer the
Sure.
question as well?
Sure, go
Well,
ahead.
thank you. I think the main difference, just looking at the two properties here, is there is more properties for 380 Assiniboine, and the unit breakdown's different. So for 303, we have 31 one-bedroom and 3 two-bedroom, and for 380, we have 4 bachelor, 24 one-bedroom, and 16 two-bedroom. So to my knowledge, that would be the difference, or where the difference in cap rate would come from.
Okay. This is located right next to those new condos on the Assiniboine, isn't it? Judging from your pictures.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. So let's move on to 71 Kennedy. So you can proceed on 71 Kennedy.
Thank you. This is file number 24-4280, roll number 1209-2694-000. The address is 71 Kennedy Street. Roll year 2025, reference date April 1st, 2023. Assessed value is $2,227,000. Classification 20, liability T. There is one building with 3 stories. The actual and effective year built is 1930. There is 29 suites. On page 2, just for subject sale history, we just have a sale on August 3rd of 2016 for $2.5 million. Then on page 3, for the income value summary, we have the number of units. So we have 14 bachelor units, 8 one-bedroom units, and 7 two-bedroom units for a total of 29 units. The average monthly rent per unit is $748.80. Gross potential rent is $260,582. Vacancy rate is 4.3%. Effective gross income is $249,377. Expense rate is 54.0%. Net operating income is $114,713 with a capitalization rate of 5.15%. The estimated market value rounded is $2,227,000, with the market value per suite being $76,793.10. On page 4, for the rent comparables, we have a range of 1906 to 1949, with a total number of units ranging from 20 to 39. Number of bachelor would be 0 to 24. Number of one bedroom would be 7 to 18, and number of two bedroom would be 0 to 6. For the average monthly rent per unit being $730 to $921. Page 5, capitalization information, followed by the evidence on 6, and the Municipal Act on 7. And 8, we have just an aerial photo of where the property resides, as well as a street photo. And then we have the mailer from page 9 to 10. And that would be my I guess the only thing to point out with the mailer is that there is interest expense before the net operating income. So the net operating income would be, do the math briefly. I believe the net operating income is 124,836 reported. And that would be my presentation. I'm open for questions.
Okay, questions, Mr. Moroz?
Just the same as all the others, so the board accepts it. There's no point asking them again.
I didn't catch the question.
It would be the same as all my other questions, so I can forego asking them.
No, we will consider questions in the totality of the hearing. No need to repeat the same question over and over again.
Yeah, so then I would have no additional questions.
Okay, so then you can begin your presentation then.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened here. Essentially,
Neil, you skipped us if we had questions.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
That's okay.
I'm ahead of my time again. Mr. Stephenson, questions.
Actually, I didn't have any questions, but I think Lynn might have one. So that's
Okay, Lynn. Sorry about that. Again, I'm ahead of my time. So,
No, I think I'm fine. Thank you. No question.
okay.
Thanks,
Now,
Kevin.
Mr. Moroz, you can proceed.
okay, yeah, this is interesting. Page 1 here. Essentially, it shows 2022 revenue and expenses. Obviously, that's the same as the average, and these expenses were stabilized. They're based on the mailers. Like the assessor said, the expenses on the mailer include the interest. So that's typically removed off of the operating statements, and that the estimate to be 138,740 for expenses, rounded to 139. The building has no on-site parking, so the cap rate was bumped up a bit from to 6%. It's obviously the same neighborhood, central neighborhood, and the income is capped at 6%. And that's the end of my presentation on that.
Okay. Questions, Mr. Omachinsky?
No questions, thank you.
Miss McFadden?
So now we're jumping to a 6% cap rate.
Yeah, there's no parking on this building, so it's bumped up a bit.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Stephenson?
no questions. Thank you.
Okay. Miss McFadden took my question on the cap rate. So I've got no additional questions. So let's move on to Osborne Village, I guess it is. 383 Gertrude. So on 383 Gertrude, then Mr. Omachinsky.
Okay, thank you. This is file number 24-4128, roll number 120122100. Address is 383 Gertrude Avenue, roll year 2025, reference date April 1st, 2023. The assessed value is 4,814,000, classification 20, liability T. There is one building with 2 stories. The actual year built is 1968, with the effective year built being 1973. There is 42 suites with 32 outdoor parking spots. We'll go to page 3 for number of units. So we have 1 bachelor unit, 26 one-bedroom units, and 15 two-bedroom units for a total of 42 units. The average monthly rent per unit is $1,080.94. The gross potential rent is $544,794. The vacancy rate is 3.2%. The effective gross income is $527,361. The expense rate is 53.44%. Net operating income is $245,539. The capitalization rate is 5.1%. The estimated market value rounded is $4,814, with the market value per suite of $114,619.05. Next page, we have the rent comparables. This ranges from the comparables, range from effective year built being 1923 to 1969. The total number of units range from 25 to 76. Number of bachelor would be 0 to 9. Number of 1 bedrooms would be 19 to 40. Number of 2 bedrooms would be 3 to 27. Average monthly rent ranges from $1,002 to $1,137. Following pages 5 is the information for capitalization rates, followed by the evidence and the Municipal Assessment Act. Then we can go to page 8, which we have a aerial photo of where the property resides. So that is, in that Osborne Village area, as well as a street photo, and then some interior photos that I was able to obtain online. I did not inspect this property myself. And then followed by, on page 10, 11 is the rent roll, and then the statement of income and expense for the year on page 12, as well as the income and expense mailer on 13. That would be my presentation. I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Okay, questions? Mr.
Same as-
Moroz?
Yeah, no, same as always.
Okay. Questions, Mr. Stephenson?
No questions, thank you.
Ms. McFadden?
Not sure whether it's best to ask this, but now or later, I noticed that the pictures that you have are different than the pictures that are being showed of the building, the street view of the building that's being showed by Mr. Moroz. Is everybody sure they've got the right building here?
I sure hope so. One moment. This is 383 Gertrude Ave,
Yep.
just to confirm. That is what is being shown on, if you look at actually, let's see. Oh, I guess, sorry, or if you zoom in, if you're able to, just on the aerial photo, you can see the 383 for the Gertrude.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Stephenson?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, so your presentation, Mr. Moroz, then.
Essentially, again, the 2020, 2021, 22 reported income was stabilized. I don't have a 2021 income in this here chart. The average was taken, and the average was used for the stabilization of the property. Gave a net operating income of $216,000. The cap rate was the same as the assessment department at 5.1. Obviously, there's a vast difference in income from what was suggested by the model and what was reported by the property owner. That would lead to the difference, and my $4,235,000 opinion of value. And that's it for my presentation.
Okay, questions, Mr. Almachinsky?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Mr. Stephenson?
No questions, thank you.
Ms. McFadden?
So the picture on page 2 is not the same building that Mr. Omachensky was showing. Your picture on page 2.
I wouldn't know why these would be different.
quite different. Your suite mix is also different than what he's showing?
I don't know why. Mr. Amachitsi's picture may be Google.
The paint color changed in 2016.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
That's what I was gonna say as well, is that
Yeah.
this is a photo taken from in 2016.
Okay, all right,
Google.
thank you.
Okay, so that would be it. Okay. So basically you stabilize the NOI over 3 years.
2 and
Oh, 2 years, yes. Yeah.
yeah,
So they did well in 2000, but not so well in 2022.
yeah, there'd be vacancy and bad debt. There's
Okay.
always a difference from the gross potential income might not have changed much, but there would be vacancy and bad debt in the way of unrented apartments and or incentives given to new rent. Seems to be the trend affecting multifamily these days is rental discounts. They seem to be commonplace in the market.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much then. For that, we'll move up the street a little bit to 391. Gertrude? Okay, Mr. Omachinsky, you can begin.
Okay. This is file number 24-3861, roll number 1202120820. Address is 391 Gertrude Avenue. Roll year 2025, reference date April 1st, 2023. The assessed value is 5,666,000. Classification 20, liability T. There is one building with 2 stories. The actual year built is 1968, with the effective year built being 1973. There is 42 suites with 24 outdoor parking spots. On page 2, we have a sale in March 17th, 2011 for $3,510,000. Then on page 3, for the number of units, we have one bachelor, 26 one-bedroom, and 15 two-bedroom for a total of 42 units. The average monthly rent per unit is $1,072.06. Gross potential rent is $540,318. Vacancy rate is 3.2%. The effective gross income is $523,028. The expense rate is 44.75%. The net operating income is $288,973. The capitalization rate is 5.1%. The estimated market value is rounded is $5,666,000, with the market value per suite being $134,904.76. On page 4, for the rent comparables, we have the effective year built for these comparables ranging from 1945 to 1974. The total number of units ranging from 32 to 152. I mind you that for a comparable one, I do believe that it's probably my weakest comparable out of the comparables chosen, but I'll still go through them. For a total number of units, we have 32 for the low end of the range and 152 for the high. Number of bachelor, we have between 0 and 2. Number of one bedroom is between 20 and 91. Number of two bedroom being 7 and 60. For the average monthly rent per unit being $1,002 to $1,248. Or sorry, 1,000. Yeah, that is correct. Following page is the capitalization information, followed by the evidence, and then the municipal act. And on page 8, we have a aerial photo followed by a street photo. And then on page 9, we have some interior photos of the property taken from their website, all the way down to page 12. And on 13, we have a In 2011, a permit for an interior refresh of all 42 units within the two-story apartment building, and that would be a declared construction value of $814,064. Then we have a breakdown of, the income statement on pages 14, 15, followed by the rent roll, continuing from 16 to 19. And that would be my presentation. I am open for questions.
Okay, questions, Mr. Morose.
Same as always. So
Okay,
nothing else.
Ms. McFadden.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Stephenson.
No questions, thank you.
Okay, your presentation, Mr. Morose.
Basically took the 2020, 2021, 2022 income expenses, stabilized it. Generally, the 2022 income and expense, the most recent ones, were used to determine net operating income. Net operating income was capitalized to give a value of $5,145,000. And that's it for my presentation.
Okay, questions, Mr. Omachinsky.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Stephenson.
No questions, thank you.
Ms. McFadden.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, why 5.5?
So generally, what the intent is that to use market rate. Everything will be based on market rate. However, if the discrepancy is not too bad between what the assessment department has and what, like for example, if the rent in the model was significantly higher than what is actually reported as subject property, then I would try and agree to whatever I could from the model. So the main issue would be that the rent is completely out of line, and if it was more in line, this would be the value. Just to try and give the assessment department something to agree on prior to the presentation.
All
This
right.
this one here, if you look at the so when you see 5.5, around 5.5, it's based on the capitalization rate discussion included in the brief and the actual comparables on page 22 and 23 of the brief.
Okay, thank you for that. Let's move on to our final property, which is completely different end of the city, 1245 Henderson Highway. So, Mr. Omachinsky.
Okay, thank you. This is file number 24-4184, roll number 04000254600. The address is 1245 Henderson Highway, roll year 2025, reference date April 1st, 2023. The assessed value is $11,295,000, classification 40, liability S. There is one building with 14 stories. The actual and effective year built is 1982. There is 104 suites with 14 outdoor parking spots. We'll go on to page 3, which is the income value summary. For number of units, we have 91 one-bedroom units and 13 two-bedroom units for a total of 104 units. The average monthly rent per unit is $918.75. The gross potential rent is $1,146,600. The vacancy rate is 2.6%. The effective gross income is $1,116,788. The expense rate is 45.85%. The net operating income is $604,294, with the capitalization rate of 5.35%. The estimated market value rounded being $11,295,000, with a market value per suite of $108,605.77. On page 4 and 5, there is the CMHC October 2022 private apartment average rents. because this is a seniors living complex, we use these charts to illustrate that our current, the modeled rent compared to the potential rent is coming in at 81%. And we break it down by the zone of the city, at the year that it's built, and then the building unit count. So we are 81% of what the potential CMHC rent is. On page 6, we have the rent comparables. So it's ranges from 1965 to 1992. Wasn't able to find comparables in this area that had the number of units that that the subject property does. So for the total number of units, we range from 27 to 48. I tried to go more for the unit breakdown being hopefully as similar as I could. But there's no bachelor units for the comparables. For number of 1-bedroom units, we have a range of 11 to 29, and the number of 2-bedroom would be 0 to 23. The average monthly rent per unit would be $922 to $1,094. Following page is the capitalization rate information, followed by the evidence and the Municipal Assessment Act. And then on 10, we have the aerial photo, just where the property, subject property resides, as well as a street photo. And then there is on page 11, just some information for the property itself. And that would be our presentation. Thank you for listening.
Okay, questions, Mr. Moroz?
Just a standard question. Basically, this is not a standard apartment building. You have to buy in, and then you pay a rent, and then you get optioned out, etc. Right? It's not so the income expenses are just the model's best estimate of what can be achieved by this property and what would be typical for expenses for such a property. Like it's all model based, not on the property itself.
Yeah, it is all model based.
That's all I have.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. McFadden, questions?
Do these suites have regular kitchens? It looks like it's an assisted living building where meals and services are provided, which is why we've gone to the other rent.
I'm unsure if there is. I was trying to find some interior photos or just information if there was a kitchen in suite. By the looks of the 1-bedroom being 650 square feet for the property, that might indicate that there would be space for a kitchen, but I don't know for sure, and I did not have the chance to inspect the property. Generally,
these buildings would have a kitchen, but it would not be up to the standards of a regular building. Okay. And I'm asking the question because I believe that would affect the actual marketability of this building if it was sold on the market, correct?
Correct. That would, yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
Okay, Mr. Stephenson.
My question was asked. Thank you.
Okay. Do you know if the rents are subsidized? I see in your last page there, it says subsidized rent. No, but so these aren't subsidized rents?
No, these aren't subsidized rents. It's just that the building is it has a restricted renters pool, which is why we went with the CMHC.
Okay. All right. Thank you. One more question then on the cap rate. Does that affect the cap rate? That the fact that it's seniors living and I guess it sounds like smaller than average units and that sort of thing?
To my knowledge, I don't know if the model would take it being a seniors housing into account for the capitalization rate. There is other factors in the model that would affect, but to my knowledge, I don't believe it does affect the capitalization rate.
Okay, thank you. So Mr. Morose, you can begin then.
Okay, so yeah, I believe they all have kitchens. I just don't have that in front of me, but I'm pretty sure it's a standard apartment. The income and expenses reported. Um, I use the actual income and expenses reported, but they're stabilized. So my understanding of what happens is that there's a buy-in for the building, and then you pay your rent, and then you pay fees associated with the common areas, etc. Um, there might be some information on that in what the assessor included in from the website, I guess, on page 11 and 11, page 11 of his brief. So there's extra amenities to the building, extra services, and the tenants would pay for those. So there's a charge for that. But if you sell the unit, you would get your investment back. So it doesn't really show, not a really good example of apartments renting at market generating income, that income being capitalized. So what I did is, well, I had another similar property in the exact same neighborhood, and the assessor and we came to an agreement on the expenses and how we would stabilize it, etc. So that's what I've done, and you can see my cap rate's lower because it's probably the cap rate's supposed to be looking from an investor's standpoint, right? If somebody investing in the building and with deposits on the rent, etc., it would be decent investment that way. However, they make money off of the operations in the building, the independent living operations. So basically, I capped my net operating income at 5% and gave a value of $9,620,000. And that'd be it for my presentation.
Any questions, Mr. Omachinsky?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Stephenson.
No questions, thank you.
Ms. McFadden.
Mr. Morose, you have me quite confused. What you're describing initially is a life lease building, but also is sort of a mixture of an assisted living building. But then you're using the actual rents and just changing the cap rate, because we don't know whether those actual rents, what it includes and what it doesn't include, or whether it's prorated because of the amount of down payment people have put in. We don't know any of those things. Is that?
Yeah, what I'm using is basically a market rent. So the because, and like I said, I based it on another property on Valhalla that we had an agreement with the assessor. We went through. I didn't have the opportunity to discuss with this assessor anything about the properties. He wasn't available. So I just based it on what I had from the property on Valhalla, same ownership, and this is what we use for income expenses and ratios. So it's based on an agreement we have on another building on Valhalla, which is just right in the same area.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I have no questions that haven't been asked and answered. So thank you for that. We've now heard all the items on today's agenda, and this hearing is now adjourned. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your presentations.
Thank you. Have a nice day, everyone.
Okay, and we'll take a short break and maybe come back at 11 and do our deliberations.
Okay.
Thank you.